Yes, let's get started. Good morning, all. I am so fortunate to have this opportunity to share my experience and my interest in children, developmental needs, and how we can make sure that they grow in a positive environment. I have been told that most of the audience here are teachers, counselors, and parents. So it's kind of a little daunting for me
Go,
to
hurry up,
say.
quickly.
So it's a little daunting for me because I do know that counselors are expert in developmental needs and milestone in any way, and parents are doing the uh, I think, experience with the children, so they know it better. But I am definitely going to share what I know about this topic, and I'm sure that it's going to add something to what you already know or maybe some practical insight. I am open to discussion as well. So, my topic is on developmental needs and milestone among children. My name is, like have been told by Melissa, I am Dr. Kriti Vashisht. I am a new assistant professor in the School of Social Work in UT RGV. Um, okay, Okay, so the objective or the agenda of this presentation going to be simple and direct, that we will be talking about typical developmental stages. That is divided into four: fine motor development, language skills, cognitive development, and social emotional. I do have some extra slides towards the end that talks majorly about mental health and what small activities and skill we can add into the daily life of children and adolescents to make sure that they develop positively in terms of their mental health. The presentation is going to include all the developmental stages from the age 4 to 12 and sometimes 15 as well. Okay, let's get started. The very first age group that we are going to review is from 4 to 5 years old. So we majorly know that in terms of movement, this is the time when a child starts to, they already know walking, but they starts to standing on one foot for 10 seconds or longer. So they are trying to push themselves and trying to learn more skill and complex skills. They start doing like hopping and somersaults. So that is also one thing that you notice among children at that time. They're starting to enjoy the park spaces. So going out is something that they really enjoy. They swing, they climb, and they try to skip as well. So that's about the gross motor skills. Then let's talk about the fine motor skills where they are using their hands and fingers. So this is the time you will notice that they start getting more knowledge about the geometric patterns. So they start cutting a triangle, like in the school. I'm sure you all are aware of it as teachers as well. They start drawing their own body. So it's not perfect but they start drawing with the stick figures, like a circle with the legs. So they start recognizing a person body as well. They try to write some letters like A, B, but nothing complex, but small some letters. They try to help the parents or elderly people in dressing and undressing themselves. They also usually care for their own toilet needs. At this time, they know when they want to use the restroom, or when they have some signal or communication in terms of their toilet needs as well. As we move forward, we are going to look at the language around children who are among 4 to 5 years. So you will notice that how they start recalling some part of the story. So if they are watching some these days, like Instagram or maybe some kind of series, they are able to communicate some part of that story, right? And then they are able to speak some sentences. They are able to speak, when it reads that they are able to tell longer story, it means that they come to the point after narrating a whole story. So maybe they had a fight with a friend in the school, but they will tell you about, I was wearing a red shirt and he was wearing the red shirt too. So they take longer route to tell a story as well. They are at this age, they are able to say their name, and they are able to also um, recognize and remember their own address. So safety and security is something that one can start talking about at this age. Like, what is your name? If you go lost, what is your address? What is your father name? What is your mother name? Um, in terms of cognitive developmental stage, at this point, they can start counting until 10, and they can also count more objects than 10, but that is the standard. And then they start to recognize a few colors, and then they start to understand the concept of time. So they know that it's getting late, it's early, so they start to understand the concept of time at this point of time as well. And they start to know about things they use in every day in the home. Like, for example, they may have some um, admiration about certain bowl that they use on a daily basis, or a plate or a hairband. So this is the time when they cognitively start recognizing what is theirs and what is something that belongs to other people. So that is the time cognitively they start growing, and they want to learn more. In terms of social and emotional needs, this is the time when they want to please the friend. So, for example, sharing their toys and make that feeling of sharing and having a friend, having a bond is something that they start to realize and cherish at this moment. So, this is definitely a time when we start focusing on how. Focusing on the values related to sharing, making friends, relationship, they likely to agree to rules. So even if they are expanding, they're curious, they're growing cognitively, but this is the time when we need to introduce some kind of rules to them because they're still young and they need some kind of stability. So maybe having a routine for themselves. This is the time they sleep. So that is also something that kind of adds to their value to their life when they grow up. This is the time they show more independence. So for example, this is the time when even if they need a caregiver, so even if they know that the caregiver is around, they can act more independent. They can go to, play with someone else around a caregiver. So this is a time when you can introduce the rules, but also they also want to be independent in that way. Aware of sexuality. So this is not a sexuality awareness that someone kind of reached during the puberty time. This is the aspect of sexuality when they start to recognize she's a girl, this is a boy. There are certain words that needs to be hush hush. So they start to recognize the aura behind being a girl, being a boy. So they start recognizing the societal norms as well. Lastly, this is the time when, as per the Sigmund Freud framework, we know that it is something that most of the infant struggles with, but this is the time when they try to distinguish between fantasy and reality. So they may want a chocolate, but they also are able to learn that maybe this is not the time they will be getting a chocolate this time, right? So this is about the language, cognitive, social, emotional, and motor skills in children between 4 to 5 years of age. So, what are some recommendations at this point of time when we know this is the developmental stage they are going through? So, first is we continue to read to our child, right? And we include reading in their daily schedule. So, it means that reading, because they are curious, they want to know about the structure, they want to know about the norms, right? Maybe not in a complex way. So, maybe introducing those kind of reading or stories to them, which kind of relate to them, to their age group. So, that is a wonderful skill and technique one can introduce in their daily life. Then encouraging the child to play with other children and talk about the value of good friendship. because you will notice that statistically and research wise, it is supported that more work we put in from the age of 1 to 5, it will help them get better into their adulting process. So we will see that how sometimes youngsters and young children, they struggle to make good friends and they struggle to negotiate, etc. So this is a wonderful time when we inculcate that value in them, that okay, so this is your friend, and this is also a time when we can start I think integrating some negotiation skills as well, which I'll be talking in later in the slides. So that is one. The third thing is, have your child help with simple chores. So there is a research that actually talks about children who are included in their household. When they grow up, they are able to navigate their career and personal life better than children who are not able to, who are not included in their simple chores. So include them, make them that not only made them feel inclusive, but also enhances their self-esteem, that they are able to accomplish something. So this is about 4 to 5 years. Let's talk about 6 to 7 years of age and what are the milestones. So again, we will review the motor skills first. This is the time when they start to use one hand consistently for fine motor tasks. That means this is the time when they are recognizing whether they are dominantly lefty or they use their right hand. So this is the time they are interested in games with rules but lack skills. So even if they are engaging in games with rules, but they are not perfect in it. So maybe this is the time when we would want them to kind of explore those extracurricular hobbies that they would want to indulge in, and maybe in later age when they are able to refine those skills, they are able to refine those skills, right? This is the time they start using cutlery, and have that fine motor skills. So they recognize fork. They try to eat with fork and knife, and then they are able to get dressed by themselves at this point of time. And they enjoy engaging in some kind of notorious activities, like maybe they being naughty, right? So this is the time when we can, I think, it's the skill for the adult to recognize that this is the age where they are going to be experimental and they are going to be not be able to understand how to express their anger or violence, or if they're not having a good feeling in their own body. So this is the time when we can try to make them regulate those emotions as well, and maybe tell them a better behavior to show that emotion, and not recognizing the violent behavior, and also helping them with a better healthy behavioral pattern as well. In language, they start to learn to write letters, numbers, and they also develop a concept of going backwards. So they are now are able to understand that complexity. So that if we can go from 1 to 10, we can also go back from 10 to 1. So that is something a bit complex um, for them to understand, but they are able to do it at this time. They start to engaging during the dinner and the meal time, right? So they try to listen to you. They want to tell you the whole story, what happened during the day. So that is the time when they are engaging with you. So I think this would be appropriate for modern parents, because we all struggle to maintain a balance between our own social media time and our own parenting time. So maybe this is the time when we need to recognize that this is the meal time, and this is also a milestone that my child is going through. We need to engage them as well. They begin to enjoy reading as pastime if he or she has had success in this skill. So, because like we talked about, that reading is something that can be included even in 4 to 5 years of age. This is the time when when they start to develop some positive hobbies, and if they start to enjoy reading, they can now see if they have time or if they want to enjoy in themselves that individual independent time, they can start to develop the skill as well. They now get the concept of what is fair and what is unfair. So this is right, this is wrong, because they are not only following the rules now, but they are getting into that complexity in terms of, so I'm going to follow this, but I'm not going to follow this because this is unfair. So this is a wonderful time when you can have conversations around what is unfair and how the system works, etc. I was reading one of the research that talks about that when we go through the developmental milestone, it is very important, and maybe this is why it is very important to recognize that what is the socioeconomic background or the cultural background of the child, because in developmental stages they are going through, I would say, the standard developmental milestone. But just imagine someone from a different race or ethnicity or culture. For them, the idea of unfair treatment would be different from someone who is from a majority culture, right? It depends upon the geographical location as well. So having that understanding, and also as an adult knowing that what are the best way to communicate that unfair treatment based on different cultural factors is also important. Then we will talk about the cognitive development. They have difficult time making choices and decisions because they are learning about that there are so many things, but and they can only have one, because discipline is also one aspect that we want to introduce in their life. They start to recognize who is authority, who they look up to as well. So teachers, counselors, parents, now they act like a model to them, authority figure, and someone they idolize. So so we all should recognize that what important job we are doing right now. They also are able to see the end result. They see the end result more important than the route. So at this point of time, they only think about what is the result. They do not want to go through the process. So they, for example, if you tell them that after you complete this assignment, you will be able to spend half an hour watching your favorite cartoon. So they're they are doing the homework and assignment maybe more because looking at the end results, that they are able to watch the cartoon and may not be able to recognize that this assignment kind of adds something to me, even if they're learning at that time, right? So this is and like I said, rules is something that they need to be getting introduced to, even if they're kind of also recognizing the complexity of unfairness and fair aspect of the society. Um, in terms of social and emotional milestones, around 6 to 7 years of age, um, they are more ready to accept, dish out criticism than to receive it. So criticism is something, we always talk about constructive criticism. So, so at this point of time, they're not able to take the criticism as nicely as as an adult. So maybe this is a time we have to make sure that we provide them constructive criticism, and maybe a way to accept it as well. They are more sensitive to reactions. They begin to show politeness and consideration, begins to be modest and concerned about their private parts and sexual organs. Like for example, it's very beautiful. Like one of my friend who is from America, I'm not. So she was telling me that in her when she was small in her childhood, she was able to at one point she was able to recognize that this is girl line. like when they queue up for getting into the bus, this is line for the girl and this is line for the boy. So maybe the the sexuality part is like that that there is some difference between girl and boy. So and even in their own self as well, they start to recognize that part of their sexuality. They also start to show friendships. They start to have their secrets and they want to spend time together. So this is about the emotional and social need around 6 to 7 years of age. Now, what are some recommendations or tips, I would say, that we should be focusing on as now we know what are the developmental needs and milestone around this age? Um, Talk about respecting others and helping people in need. So, in every milestone, we are adding value, discipline, rules, but also a critical way of looking at the society. Because even if we want a stable household for our child, we also want them to be critical. And this happens when they are growing, and it's a tiresome but also very important job of teachers, counselors, parents, and anyone who are in that engagement of that developmental addition to children. So start talking about respecting and helping others. Help the child learn patience by letting others go first and finishing a task before going out to play. So this is a very critical skill that that it's not only about like sharing a chocolate or maybe sharing a chocolate with your friend or maybe your sibling. It is a time, it is a critical value that you inculcate in your child at this point of time that 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 it's okay to wait. It's okay if someone is getting a half of it. I think it's going more deeper and complex into that. Like you have to finish your task first before you do anything. So that kind of also helps when we talk about um, how we are dividing the resources when we are talking about, I think, the geopolitic. Or I mean, this is a very broader concept, but can we can trickle down it to that small value system that we can add during that developmental stage.
Their parent is asking if there's a sign in. Send it again, please.
Huh?
The parent is asking if there's a sign in. Can you send it in again? Okay.
And then the third one is help your child develop a sense of responsibility. Ask them to help with household chores. So it is in addition to what we have looked in our previous milestone. It's not only about just letting them do the individual task and feel independent. It's more about sense of responsibility. This is a so you are not like how everything is not served to you. You have to kind of um gain that thing for yourself. You have to earn it. So that is another milestone recommendation on this. Okay. And then the last milestone that I'm covering in this presentation is going to be from 8 to 12 years. So, like we talked about in previous milestone, that they start to enjoy the games and they start to start to understand rules. But this is the time when they really start building their strength and refining their skills. So maybe this is the time when we can actually enroll them in some kind of formal training, right? And then large and fine motor skills becoming hardly coordinated. So, for example, if someone is interested in dance, they are able to do complex dance moves, or maybe in general gymnastics. So they are able to coordinate their large and fine motor skills. And then they start to prepare for puberty. This may be the time when they hit puberty as well. In terms of language, they now are able to give accurate directions to other. They are able to develop more complex and abstract concepts their vocabulary increased, they are more refined in their grammar, creating more complex sentences in writing than in conversations. So this is the time when you can introduce them to maybe some reading, but in terms of folk reading, like how which is very historical to the place you are from, and maybe I think this valley is full of historical context, right? So maybe this is the time you can start introducing those kind of different writers to them as well. You can also start explaining the relationship between meanings of multiple meaning words. So they start to not only understand what water means, but maybe they start to have the meaning around it. So like for example, um, say a word like tacos, right? So tacos is not only the food or something that you eat, but there is more context to it, right? So they start to understand the the subtle meaning or the hidden meaning around the words as well. So this is a wonderful time when you can start talking and taking them to museums, historical things. They start to understand jokes and riddles based on sound and similarities. So they start to maybe understand some complex jokes, right? People call it like dry humor, etc. So this is the time because as they are growing more complex, cognitively, they start to think hypothetically and maybe because they are curious, they are able to ask you questions about what if I do this, what if I do that. So we need to be providing that space for our children so that they can utilize this time and maybe are able to put their thoughts into action if they're talking something about like something that they would potentially want to do, right? They become more goal oriented. They may enjoy reading a book, they can interpret a context. We already talked about it. They may develop special interests that are source of motivation. So this is a wonderful time when you will see and notice that the work that you have done in their 4 to 5 years of age, in their 6 to 7 years of age, now they are kind of have developed that interest. They want to maybe buy shoes which is of a particular brand, or maybe some sports person have wore it because they want to do good in their sports as well. So they kind of develop and start acting on those curiosity and develop a very strong hobbies. It's very important because if someone knows how to regulate emotion and they have hobbies, when they're in their downtime, they do not need to develop a hobby. They already know it. It's not only a skill that they need. It's something that it's a life skill for them as well. Social and emotional. Most early adolescents are fully capable of perspective taking and understand and consider others' perspective. So maybe you know, talk to your children as well. I'm not saying that they are your therapist, but start communicating the emotions and start communicating and sharing your own perspectives as well, because they're able to understand and consider the perspective at this point of time. They begin to understand facets of the adult world like money, telling time. Um, they may resent being told what to do, yet needs constant reminder regarding routine responsibility. So when I was preparing this PowerPoint, I came across another article that talked about that this is a part of a developmental stage where they are showing a lot of resentment. And even if as a parent or as a caregiver or as an educator, that they need constant reminding of that responsibility as well. So sometimes we as adults uses words like, oh, they'll grow out of it, or maybe, this is a phase, something like that. So maybe there's a better word or a better way to communicate that to them, and not taking their resentment in a way that this is bad or something. Just recognizing that this is one of the milestone, and this is the very time we can tell them and we can provide them with that kind of skills where they can grow out of that or negotiate with that resentful or anger feeling. Um, Last one is it is the time when they show a change of interest in the opposite sex. So it is very natural for uh, people of opposite sex or maybe different sexuality get attracted towards each other. So they want to dress up good, they want to talk about those conversations. So this is a time when we can have that safe and secure conversation around sex, sexuality with our children, uh, so that they are aware of what is safe for them, and because this is a very exploratory stage as well. So it's better than safe and having an open communication with your child. A few recommendations for this age group is use phrases like "you must be proud of yourself" rather than "I'm proud of you," and encourage positive choices when no one is there to praise their efforts. So you really need to build uh, a constant self-esteem, self-efficacy in your child. Self-esteem is how they are understand how they are taking themselves, how positively they view themselves, but self efficacy is how positively they know that they are able to control their life, right? So this is a time when we are not only showing that we are proud of them, but we also need to tell them that you are as a person is able to control what you want in your life. So you should be proud of yourself as well. So this is a very important thing to remember as well. This is a time where we help our child set individual goals and to think about how to develop skills to accomplish them. So, like I said, they are already working on refining their skills. Maybe this is a time when we can have that conversation that, okay, so which hobby you really would like to pursue, or what do you want to do, and is this something that you want to do formally, like maybe if they are into sports, etc. um, the last one is help your child develop personal sense of right and wrong, talk specifically about peer pressure and plans to deal with it. We know that bullying, peer pressure is something which takes a lot of toll on children, and especially at this point of time. So this is a very good time when you can have that open communication with your child, that and talk about that. You know how sometimes talk about peer pressure, talk about bullying, and maybe talk about peer pressure and bullying in terms of a cultural context as well, because it is important. You will notice that, and we all will agree that peer pressure and bullying for a white child would be different for a peer pressure and bullying for anyone from a not only white child. I would say it depends upon the social class, but it also come down to racism, ethnicism, uh, cultural, any minority majority culture. So it's very important to have that clear complex conversation with your child, because they're struggling with it in their school, in their social life. Um, so this is all about the developmental milestone, but like I said, I do have a few slides that only focuses on mental health. So what are some best practices? So one thing that I would want to say, that even if all the motor skills, language skills, social emotional skills is something that contributes in the life skills or the development of your child, but it also very much affect how they're going to handle the complexity of being an adult, and how their mental health would be in the later part of their life. So all these milestones, if done properly with a proper understanding, can lead to the value and the feeling that there is a safe environment. I can have safe relationship. I have a routine that I follow, and I do have self-esteem and positive self-efficacy. So if someone is critical of myself and it's a wrong critical view, I am able to understand that this is not right. I do have control over my life, and I so have a better understanding of themselves. Um, so what are some something that we can add in addition to we already talked about? So giving positive feedback, and we all know that, how we are appreciative of them. Um, and also giving word to their feeling, like for example, if they are feeling very proud of themselves, so you must be proud of yourself, right? Because so that they can recognize that emotion, and they know that, oh, this is how I'm feeling and this is such a good feeling, or maybe a negative emotion as well. You must be feeling really angry at this point of time, and we all as counselors and someone in psychology and social work know all those techniques, a good reminder for ourselves. You have done a wonderful job. So these are a constant reminder to our children. And then empathy, and I think at this point of time, I think empathy makes sense in any context, but globally, in this world as well, it makes so much sense. So ask a toddler to pay attention to who is present and missing from activities. So, for example, this is a time, if they talk about a certain friend on a regular basis, so you can ask follow-up question. Oh, is he attending the class? Oh, what do you think? So you are not only um, teaching them to show care and empathy to their fellow beings, but they are also kind of learning social skills as well. So they're gonna go to Jenny and maybe ask, "Oh, is everything all right?" So these are small things that we can introduce. Reading books is something which is so valuable. And talk about friendships, diverse families, and people. So if you are someone, I think we all live in US, it's such a diverse culture, right? So enjoy and make sure that you are attending any possible diverse gathering so that your child understand a culture, a different food, and mingle with everyone, right? Um, uh, you have to make sure if you're reading books, you demonstrate characters which exhibit different kind of behavior and value system, because that's there is a time during the developmental stage where children are all about the superheroes, right? So it's a good time to introduce those kind of readings. Talk about what the toddler is feeling and how other children may be feeling, such as why they are crying or are upset, right? So we will notice that in counseling, in mental health, sometimes we have adult clients who do not know how to put words to their feeling, and we show them that feeling chart, right? That how you are feeling, how they just do not know how sad feels at times. They just right. So this is a wonderful time when you can talk about different emotions and acknowledge them, and not like shutting the emotions down, especially in boys. I guess if you have a boy, having that open communication and that space for them to share their feeling. Model comforting others. For example, giving hug, holding hands, or cooking together. So these are the time, because they are learning from their adults. So modeling is something that we can do. If we are scrolling the phone, they are going to scroll the phone, and there is no there is no, I guess, there's a very linear relationship when they are growing up, right? They may able to understand and develop out of this habit if when they grow adult and they work on themselves. But modeling is something that we have to make sure. So demonstrate and describe how to cooperate in daily activities. Talk about waiting your turn. So like I said, discipline, sharing the spaces is one thing that they can do. Another way to include them and making them feel good about themselves is at the grocery checkout line, right? This is one of the examples that you can include them in that, and you can teach them about uh, the money or a few calculations. So this is a time when you can start including them in the small process, right, of daily living. Um, in addition to empathy, what are the other things we can do to emotionally develop our child? We can provide regular, purposeful interaction, um, like holding, when we talked about modeling. So, holding hands, talking, cuddling, hugs, pats on the back, physical touch when appropriate. So, this is a time when we can have those conversations, and we have to teach them how to kind of show, feel the feeling, but also kind of translate that feeling into some appropriate behavior. And we all know that it is supported that physical touch can kind of stresses de-stresses you down, right? So having that healthy coping mechanism or enjoying those kind of movements is something that we can introduce. Acknowledge uncooperative or negative behavior is as a sign of asserting oneself. So, on one hand, if they are learning about empathy and sharing, but this is a time when they also need to acknowledge what is right, what is wrong, and how they uh, should be standing up for themselves. Discuss about the books, pictures, showing emotions, identify the feeling, provide recognition of toddlers' response to activities or situation. You do not, yeah. So maybe like it's kind of repetitive, but like if your child is not able to express the emotion, we try to do it for themselves so they know and acknowledge that emotion. So, what could be one way of emotional regulation when we are talking about emotional regulation, right? So, if you see that they are not able to recognize it, so you can have that emotion chart. We can notice it, we can identify the emotion, we can try to connect that emotion to the incident, right? And we have to provide them the space so that they can make that connection as well. You have to support your child calm down. So I have seen so many Instagram posts. I think social media is all about the world we live in, that how sometimes I've seen parents calming their children down, like, okay, so you are not happy. Do you think that maybe a chocolate or maybe your a toy would help you calm down? And the child will say yes. So they kind of bring that to them. So these are the small things, but they do wonders to their emotional regulation. And then when you think that your child is a little relaxed, if there is you see an issue, you can talk about it, or maybe they just need help identify that emotion and need help in regulating it. Um, another thing is practice of negotiation, because even if we are going through that developmental stages, we know that they need emotional regulation, recognition of emotion, but negotiation is also one of the skills, communication skill that children need to know. When children disagree, encourage them to talk to each other about what they want, right? So, for example, Liam, you wanted to use the large blocks to build an airplane, but Carlos started to create a boat. Share your idea with him and see if you can work out a plan, right? So, middle path. So, having that negotiation is very, very important because we know that it's not my way or highway, right? So, plans have to be changed. So, for example, and we will see that in the younger generation, right? If you are counseling anyone from college, you will see that how college students are more about what they want to achieve and how their plans are not being, how they are not able to accomplish their plan because they have a set they have a set process. They only understand that there is a set process. If one happens, second happen, or three happen, then only they will be successful, right? But life is not like that. It's very complex. So maybe this is a time you can teach your child that, if this is not working out for you, if you are not able to go to your friend house today, you can go maybe tomorrow, because so having that negotiation and being okay with this life circumstances is something that we can introduce. I think we are almost done. Self-esteem is another very important value and the skill that your child can have. So listen to them, acknowledge their thoughts, create situation which help children experience their own success. We have already talked about it. Set clear and appropriate expectation, and having a reasonable understanding of that as well. Give your child a feeling of reasonable control over their life. Let them make small everyday decisions for themselves. Reinforce that children are lovable and capable. Sometimes, because it's very difficult to be a parent, right? So sometimes if a task takes like 2 minutes for me to do, and sometimes we take it from a child so that we can do it fast. But I think it is very important for them to just do it and make mistakes, and having that maybe 2 minutes, 5 minutes of patience as a parent as well, so that your child is also growing and having that feeling of control over their life. Demonstrate that you have a positive view of themselves, like of your child, and your own self as well. You will notice there is another Instagram post about like how an African and American woman talks about like how beautiful the child is and the girl is, and why we are talking about is because culturally the narrative has been such that that certain, if you look certain way, then only you are beautiful. So maybe, and it's something that we have to feel in our own self as well. So I think parenting and being a caregiver and educator is a difficult job, because we need to do a lot of our own work as well. You can build a child's independence and self-esteem as children grow. Things like learning to dress, cook, ride a bicycle are chances to build self-esteem and confidence. When teaching a child how to do something, show them, help them at first, and let them do. I think this is kind of in all what we are talking about. Um, uh, this is in addition to I think this is like a in a connection to um, emotional regulation. That if they are dealing with any kind of stress, what strategy could be helpful? Go quiet, approach silent, approach, use nonverbal responses as well. So if they need some time, go quiet rather than just blurting out anything and everything to your child. So it's okay to take a moment. It's not about the silent treatment, which is in a negative connotation. Ask open-ended question. Give them visual support as well. Offer breaks. Go for a walk. Take a breathe. So so those kind of stressors is something that we can introduce. Get creative. Play some calm music for yourself and for your child as well, so they also know how to deal with the stressor. Show compassion, offer them a smile, hug. So you will notice that how everything that we talked about in the developmental milestone kind of connect to this. That it's not only helping them go through that developmental milestone, but also developing a positive mental health. Um, um, this is a time when you can reduce the size of a group, peer partner station, like yeah, they can work more on complex relationship. This is a time help them reduce clutter. How like anything that just helps them reduce their stress, right? Going out, clutter-free home, um, working together in a team so that they are not feeling overwhelmed by the kind of work that they need to do. Slow down. It's not that everything needs to be done at that very moment as well. Even if throughout the presentation we talked about what we can be doing for our children, but for our own self as well. because it's always constant developing process. But a few tips for us as an adult. Um, Instead of saying that this child is getting onto my nerves, we can start using that, or maybe not saying that, but take your break. I need a break, right? This child is being so manipulative. This child is difficult for me. I need some new ideas to, engage or parent this child. Are you pissing me off on purpose? Like, I can see you are trying your best, and I need a breath. So, maybe taking that one moment for our own self and also using that time to communicate in a positive way or maybe in a healthy way to children. Um, and also, it's stressful being an educator, being a parent, and this presentation can just add to what you already know, but take prioritize yourself, recognize your own stressors, right? Make sure that you have your own way of de-stressing yourself. Enjoy some creative activity, do some work that you enjoy, have a support system. So uh, um, this was my last slide. If you all have any question, any feedback, again, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vashit. We really appreciate your knowledge and your time. Parents, will open it up. If you have any questions, you could drop the question in the chat. And we do want to thank all parents and community members who are here with us this morning. We thank you. We do have another one next month. It's going to be on December the 10th. It's nutrition and your brain, which is also extremely important to know and have that knowledge. And again, we will be having someone from UTRGV presenting for us. So parents, once again, thank you so much. I don't see any questions on the chat right now, Dr. Bichette, but we thank you so much once again for joining us this morning. And everyone, thank you for being here. This will also be on our counselor's website. Just give us a couple of days to upload it. You can ask, advise any of your friends that didn't show up today that were interested in coming. They could view it once it's up on our website. So once again, thank you so much, Dr. Bichette, for your time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good day. Bye.
Have a beautiful day. Thank you.